Hey, there he is. How are you?
How are you, Adam?
I'm very good.
Great,
Self?
man. What's going on? Yeah. No, things have been rocking, man. Just doing shows and doing a ton of press and
Yeah.
and now talking to Australia. So
Here we go.
it's
Yeah.
been great. Yeah.
Well, won't be long until you're here. What, another couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's we're there in exactly 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the 12th in Canberra and in Brisbane and down here in Melbourne and over to Sydney.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Been I think last time I was there was 2015 on a spoken word tour that I did. So
That's
it'll
right.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be fun to get back there and
Yeah.
play some songs for you guys.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great. So you're performing your two albums, aren't you? The Megadeth albums,
Yeah,
Killing Is My Business. Business is good. And then So
yeah,
Far, So Good, So What?
exactly.
Yeah.
Two albums that, have really, I think, grown in sort of the cult classic status, with the fans over the years. And records that have not been performed. Most of the songs from those records haven't been performed, in
Mm.
decades.
Yeah.
That's why we decided to do it. Just do it as a celebration to those songs, those albums. Obviously, Jeff, was with me on the So Far So Good So What record. Um, yeah, so it's these are the songs that you're not gonna hear anywhere else. To be honest
Yeah.
with you,
So
that's why we're doing it.
yeah, so who else have you got coming down to what drums and you got singer as well, or you just
So on drums, we have Fred Aching, who plays in the Bullet Boys. He also has another group of his own, Dead Group Band, and is a fantastic drummer. Just really great. He's from Peru. And then also Chaz Leon it's funny. Chaz has a Megadeth tribute band in Southern California called Woke Up Dead, and
oh
another Soundgarden tribute band.
oh
So
wow
he plays music for fun, and plays this stuff. When we launched, or when the whole thing kind of fell into place, was back in it was a year ago at the Ultimate Jam Nights at the Whiskey in Hollywood. They were doing a tribute to the Big Four, and Jeff hit me to come out, so I flew out. We jumped on stage, and Chaz was the singer that they had dedicated for us, and we just went, "Wow, this sounds good. This is a thing." And I'd had an idea about doing this. I'd actually talked to Chris Poland about it a few months earlier, and I'd mentioned it to Jeff. So once we hit the stage with it and did it at the Whiskey, excuse me, then we had a reality of it. It's
yeah
like, yeah, this can work, man. The fans love this stuff. They want to see this, so that's really where it all sparked and
yeah
got going.
no, it's going to be great. I mean, personally, I grew up. My brother is a drummer, so we
Mm,
grew up playing in bands, going in the '80s, '90s, and we used to jam on Mechanics, back in like '86,
sure.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, the way we do the set, we play both these albums in their entirety.
Mm.
It's a strong set, man. I mean, it's a physical set to play.
Yeah,
Um, this is not music that you can't just phone this stuff in. It requires some rehearsal and practice, and good just sort of muscle memory, playing
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
it's very cool. Yeah.
yeah. So, are you going to be doing the two albums back to back, or is it like a little break intermission type thing?
Yeah, no, back to back. We it's fun, and the two, it's funny because the two records are pretty different from each other, yet they sound good together, of course. But there's a lot of diversity. The So Far So Good So What record, to me, we had really matured as a band and in making records by album three, which is what that was. And then to go back to just the raw nature of Killing Is My Business.
Oh yeah,
Those songs, but it's interesting, those songs, they're pretty complex. There's a lot of arrangement detail in those songs from Killing, but they also have a sort of there's kind of like almost a funk R&B swagger about those songs, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's heavy and it's fast. So you maybe don't pick up on it, you know, hearing it, but certainly learning it and putting the songs together with the band. Like we really, you know, we slowed this stuff down. We really picked it apart. We really went into the detail of it. And then as we, you know, put it back together and got it back up to tempo to play it, we realized, you know, there's stuff in here that we don't want to lose. And maybe for the first time ever, people are going to hear from Kings of Thrash some of the detail of this stuff, because look, we're older guys now. We're way more experienced. I think we're much better musicians. And you know, through the maturity of our years together and separately, you know, doing our stuff, we approach these songs, I think, with a respect that we just, you know, we didn't have the time to pay attention to some of this stuff because we were under the gun in the studio and, you know, on a limited budget with Killing to just get in there and just rip through it and record it, you know. But you look, the heart and soul of the songs have been recorded. So there's a thing about you want to replicate it as best you can live. And then, you know, we don't do like our interpretation of these songs. We play them as they are, you know, that's the way the fans want to hear them.
Yeah, that's right. Now, going back to mechanics back in the day, was there ever any issues, you know, between 8 and 4 Horsemen? Like anything come up about that?
There was, and you know, it was funny. Killing was that poor record, man, has been plagued with stuff. You know, I remember. I think the issue was Metallica guitarists, like they didn't want that used. As best I remember, I can't remember if there was an issue with mechanics. There might have been,
Okay.
And somehow that got worked out. The one stickler for sure was Lee Hazelwood, who wrote the song "These Boots Are Made for Walking," because we had recorded it. And you know, it's interesting. I'll use Weird Al Yankovic as an example, right? So, because he does parody spoofs, he does parodies of songs, right? So, when you record someone else's song, you can do that no problem, right? You record it, the publishers get listed, the publishers collect the money, they pay their writers, right? Not a problem. But when you change the lyrics of a song in particular, it then falls under this parody copyright control, right? So in the case of These Boots Are Made for Walking, you know, we, you know, changed a lot of the lyrics, and so as a result, Lee Hazelwood, I think I guess he was still alive. I think he's passed now, but his team sent us, I think, a cease and desist, and we had to actually take it off the record. We had to do two things. Either take it off the record, you re-record it with the proper lyrics. So when we remixed it in 2001, we just bleeped out the changes, right, as like an edit, and I guess that was passable.
Okay.
In 2018, when we put out the final Kill, Dave actually went in and fully re-recorded the whole lyric as the original lyric. So, because we wanted to keep the song in the record because it was part of the authenticity of the album. You know, it sucks pretty soon you take Mechanics and These Boots off and there's like 6 songs on the record. So it's like at some point, you know, we got to keep the compositions on the album, you know. So there was a little bit of work around some of those, but you know, and even when we recorded and filmed the Best of the West at the Whiskey back in October, we did the same thing. Chaz sang it as the, I guess, parody version, right? The the original Megadeth lyrics. But when we recorded it, we had him go back in and re-record it and fix it, so that we wouldn't have a problem with it when it came out on a recording. So you know, there's some of these little things you learn along the way. You know?
Yeah, that's right. How about with Anarchy in the UK? Was there any problems with that one?
It's funny. I was thinking about it as I was telling the story just now because Johnny Rotten was not happy initially when he heard our version of it. That he made fun of it, like bloody wankers don't know the lyrics or something, right? And and it's funny because we had Steve Jones play on it, so obviously he's one of the composers. So by having him on it, I guess maybe sort of maybe gave it a bit of a
Yeah.
a check the box.
Yeah.
It's good. The truth of it is we did not change the lyrics to be silly or goofy. We literally thought those were the words. I mean, we it's funny. We're on Capitol, which is owned by EMI, and back in that day it was, and the Pistols Bollocks record was on EMI. We could have gone to the publisher, I guess, and asked, "Hey, give us the real lyrics." But we didn't know this because we were young and new in our career. So we just sat and listened to the record and wrote down what we thought the words were. I mean, we literally thought those were the words, and that's what we recorded. So, where it says other council tendencies, we thought it said other CUNT tendencies, right? That's what we said, right? So for us, it was a harmless, legitimate, we'll call it a mistake, maybe, or interpretation. It was an honest and harmless interpretation of what we thought the lyrics were. So, hey, it is what it is.
But yeah, I really like the way you guys did. I think it was after the second chorus, the bridge changes a little bit compared to the original. That was really cool with the double bass.
Yeah, I can't. It's funny. I'd have to go back and listen to the original. I just saw Generation Sex the other day at Grass Pop, and I guess they probably played it. I can't remember. It was fun, getting to know Steve over the years, Steve Jones. It's great to see him playing with Paul Cook because as I've now watched some of the documentary stuff, and Steve's got some great interviews on YouTube now, including a playthrough where he goes through all the riffs of the Bollocks record and plays them, and you really see, like, man, this guy was way forward thinking, man. I mean, those songs are not played in this just dumb punk rock fashion that I think people thought a lot of punk rock was. I mean, Steve had a real clever approach to his chord voicings and how he played those parts. I think when we had him come in and play the solo, there's obviously a Jeff solo, a Dave solo, and a Steve solo. Because Jeff's sort of ad-libbing, across the end of it and stuff. So, it's funny. He played, in this sort of very kind of, Steve Jones punk rock kind of way. And obviously our tempo was way up from the record. And, he was very punk rock. It was just kind of almost half out of tune, just, this thing that created the charm. It's like, okay, that's definitely Steve.
Yeah.
But now kind of watching his musicality and hearing how as best I could tell, the band was kind of him and Paul and Glenn maybe, and then Johnny when they auditioned. There's a great interview where he talks about auditioning Johnny, and then when Glenn left, Johnny brought Sid Vicious in. So it's kind of those two guys and Steve and Paul. They were, and so now knowing bands. That's how it often is. It's like, hey, me and him are like the original guys, and you two guys are the other guys. Bands sort of divide like that. The factions. The Van Halens versus Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony. So that's. And I guess Megadeth was always me and Dave and the other two guys, right? So I guess I probably kind of lived that same story myself.
Yeah, that's right. Have you seen the Sex Pistols documentary? I think it's just called Pistols.
That's the more recent one, right?
Yeah,
that was on Netflix or something. I have not. And Jeff Young kept telling me, he goes, dude, you've got to watch this. You've got to watch it. For some reason, I would just slipped my mind. I was busy doing other things. And so I need to. It's probably what I should do. I got a little time here these next few weeks. I should probably bone down on that and watch it because that's what Jeff was saying. He goes, dude, this is exactly what we're doing with Kings of Thrash. I mean, this plays to the spirit of it. I remember in 1988 during the So Far So Good So What record, we had a couple of big moments. One was obviously the Decline of Western Civilization movie that had In My Darkest Hour, but MTV and Rip Magazine also did a big thing called Anarchy in LA, where they rented like this party bus and we went down the Sunset Strip
Oh yeah.
Past Rainbow and all that stuff, and then ended up down at the Santa Monica Civic Center where Ted Nugent was playing, and so it was cool, and it was a lot of fun, and it was just that was a fun moment, man. It was we were all partying and doing what we did back in the day, and that day supported that. That's because everybody was doing that. It was fun, and we had a good time.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I saw another interview you did with Andrew from Scars and Guitars. I think it was like a couple of weeks ago. Another
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
from
yeah,
Australia.
yeah.
And you were talking about like your having your bass everywhere and practicing. So when you practice, there you go. There's one right
Right
there.
here. Sitting on the couch right here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Always go on next to me too. My guitar.
Most importantly, not only does it sit here, I pick it up and play it. In fact, it's funny. I did a gig, and I'll get you back to your question in a minute. But
That's
it's
all right.
funny. We did an acoustic gig up in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago, and the guy that was setting me up with the amp for the gig, he gave me one of these picks, and it's a heavy, thick pick, but it's the triangle. He said it's a bass pick, and I'm like, well, I don't use a bass pick. I use just regular guitar pick. But it's funny having this in my hand because as a kid, when I was first learning to play bass, I experimented with everything. I had Fender picks, and then these picks, and I remember the bass player in the jazz band before me. He quit, and I basically got his gig. He had a felt pick, which kind of emulated felt pick on a flat wound, like a tape wound, like a black tape wound string. Had this, it kind of replicated a kind of an upright bass sound, So again, it's just funny. I'm sitting here all these years later, and now I've got a heavy white bass pick, just like I had back in the day, sitting here next. And I picked it up, and it does have a place. And I will say some of this stuff, like especially Killing's my business. The heavier the pick, because normally I use like a green Jim Dunlop Tortex, and I don't see one sitting right here, but that's normally what I use. And it's kind of the happy medium. It works for most of the stuff. But what I find when I play the really fast stuff, and I don't have time for the pick to strike the string, bend, and then come back to center before I hit it again. Like you're going, Killing is right? Those kind of movements, man, that pick better be freaking ready for action. And the thinner picks, they bend, and so these heavy picks like this, I actually do have some heavier picks that I have with me, and I'll put them on my mic stand, and I'll grab that when I'm playing some of those faster songs. Because honestly, a pick that bends a little bit, it actually gives you the Popeye arm, right? You're actually physically having to do more work when the pick should be doing the work,
Yeah. No, I always use the heavy picks, the ones that can't bend.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, so when you do have your downtime to practice, do you like practice songs, or do you practice like different techniques, or what do you do?
I do everything. I mean, usually when I start, it's kind of like, even before these interviews today, I got an interview block. I'll do a vocal warm up, right? I've got a backstage vocal warm up. You kind of go through humming, right? Then the lip, right? And then the one where you kind of blowing out the candles, because it forces the vocal cords together, right? And then kind of at the end of it, there's sort of a ma 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 ma, right? To just warm the voice up, because I'm talking for a few hours, kind of nonstop, right? So, talking is as much a use of the vocal cord and the voice and everything as singing is. So I just try to not hurt my voice, warm it up, right? And then when I'm done, I got my little throat coat tea here. I've got little lozenges, I've got my ginger and lemon and honey over here. So, I try to take care of this instrument first, because it's the only one I got. I can't go buy another one, So, and then so same with the bass. I'll just sit here and I'll just kind of, just play, just kind of moving my fingers around. Same thing. It's the same equivalent of going, right? And sometimes when I do the vocal warm up, I'll sit here and I'll play along.
Oh yeah.
Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up a half step, right? And what I find when I have an instrument in my hand, a bass, and I'm doing the vocal warm up, is it's you know, in the gym when you're lifting a weight, they say mind to muscle, right? Don't just lift the weight, like put your mind to what you're doing, so you really focus it, right? Breathing, kind of put your whole body into it. So I find it's the same thing with the bass and music, you know. Like put everything into it, right? Like put your mind to the mind to the music, right? Mind to muscle, mind to music. And you know, part of it is just kind of warming the hands up, but I'm noticing the notes, right? Like where is the top of my vocal range, right? I'll get up to a, some days I'm up at a D and I'm struggling. Other days I get up to an E, no problem. And when I'm really warmed up and singing on the road a lot, I can hit up to like an F sharp and a G, no problem, you know. So, you know, I find, you know, it's one thing to play the note. When you can sing what you're playing, I feel like you've really sort of put your, again, the mind to the music, right? That, you know, can you sing what you're playing? And I find that helps really a lot with the ear training and being a ba da 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 da, right? Then just right, you know, to really play, like hear
Yeah.
it, sing it, and then play it and figure it out, right? So that it becomes real music, not just a bunch of noodly notes that you're okay, you know, again, kind of like the YouTube bedroom shredder guy, you know, who have incredible mechanical skills, but you know, you know, I always wanted to be someone on a stage playing and recording and, you know, making music that connects with people. And I think if I connect with the music, it's got a better chance of connecting with you, the listener.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And do you ever pick up the six string guitar much, electric guitar or anything, or
I
just on
do at
bass?
home a lot. In fact,
Yeah.
most of the stuff I write, I don't write on the bass. I write on guitar.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, you know, look, you know, the bass is real clean. It's what it's supposed to be, right? And you know, sometimes I'll pick it up, but sometimes I'll write something on guitar and then move it over to bass and go, "Ooh, that's a good bass part," right? Sometimes I'll write something on the bass, and then I pick up a guitar and play it with distortion and kind of, you know, like a 1-5 chord, you know, and all of a sudden it's like, there it is,
Yeah.
you know, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that's a freaking metal riff right there, you know. So, um, you know, you know, or I'll even play something sometimes on the piano, and then I'll move it over to you know, guitar or something, and you know, that riff on Euthanasia on the family tree, that ba da ba da ba ba da ba ba, that I wrote that on piano and then I transitioned it over to guitar and it became a really cool. It's sort of in the B section of the verse. It's a pretty hip guitar part, you know. So, you know, you never know where it's the music that matters, and then it's just sometimes finding the right instrument to execute it and play it and record it.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So what are those? Are they like number sevens on your fretboard? Is it?
You know, these are the Jackson, the shark fin, because this is one of the custom shop
Okay.
basses. It's the neck through model. And I play a lot of the imports live, like down when we do Kings of Thrash.
Mm.
Um, there's the 4-string bolt on, or I'm sorry, neck through import version, the 30th anniversary uh, Jackson guitar, and it's a replica of the very first one I had Grover Jackson make for me back in 1986, 87.
Okay.
And so it's perfect. It's got the PJ pickup rather than the soap bars.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for Kings of Thrash. I mean, I've really dedicated it to being the Kings of Thrash bass. You know, it's really good. I mean, I think 16 active SKUs with Jackson. I mean, I've got a lot of instruments with them.
Yeah.
4-5s, blacks and white, silver, you know, all kinds of stuff, you know, different colors, you know. But the Quicksilver's kind of become dedicated as my, with again that first bass Grover,
Okay.
you know, the stuff that I've used, you know, over the years with Megadeth and everything.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And the other thing I did hear you talk about was with music in general, like it really is like having a conversation, which I spoke about a lot with my artists on here, guest artists. We're saying how even like I released an album 2 years ago from tracks from people around the world, like Jennifer Batten on from Michael Jackson's band and Brett Garston,
Yeah.
and it was more like the verses were actually guitars having a conversation. You know, there wasn't vocals
Yeah.
until the pre-chorus to chorus, so it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I know you spoke
Yeah.
about it as well, haven't you?
I mean, that's what it really is, right? You get in a room with your buddies, whether you're in the studio and you're producing and I'm playing,
Mm.
we're still having a conversation, right? You're like, hey, brother, talk to me, bring it, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is it you would play here? And maybe as a bass player, you know, I'm keeping the conversation pretty solid, you know, I'm kind of just, you know, I learned that early on when we were cutting the early Megadeth stuff,
Yeah.
this Last Rites demo and Killing and Peace Cells and stuff. And that's why I started playing with a pick, because it was just easier to execute the lines, play even better in time with the click. It was the nature of the music that created that kind of forced me over to the pick. And I think there's a lesson in that. You know, don't be so stubborn and insistent, like, I got to play with my fingers or I got to do this. It's like, man, be open to what is happening in the conversation, right? You know, and when you talk, if there's a room full of people, you don't talk at this volume. You talk much louder or maybe yell across the room, right?
Yep.
At the same time, as we teach our children, hey, indoor voices, right? Take it down a notch, right? Like, we're not outside in the playground here, right? Just take it down. So same with music, you know, music is about dynamics, and, you know, and sometimes you're pushing, sometimes you're pulling. And, you know, and that, as far as the groove and that, you know, you're kind of getting things, you know, nudged up a bit, and other times you're just laying it back. And so it's that, to me, is the conversation. I mean, think about, I mean, I remember as a horn player, right? I was playing tenor sax in high school, and, you know, on a guitar, on a string instrument or drums, you don't ever have to take a breath. You can just keep doodling and playing forever, like I am now, right?
Yep.
Now I take a breath, right? So it's the idea that play your string instrument as if you're a horn player, right? You got to take a breath, 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 you know, and don't hold your breath the whole time either. But breathe in, you're going to pass out, right? You got to exhale too, right? So, you know, I guess I'm lucky to have some experience as a horn player, because, you know, your phrasing of what you're playing, again, don't make your conversation a bunch of run-on sentences. You know, put some periods and commas and exclamation points, and maybe even a question once in a while, right? Like, you know, music is a language. You know, learn the language of music, not just the notes on the instrument.
Yeah, and it really is a universal language. Like I've played with people that, you know, that haven't spoke English before. Like I did a tour in Indonesia, like in '95, and, you know, some of the band I was played with didn't even speak English, but we spoke through music. You
Right. Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's like, look, I've done that too a lot. You know, I kind of did the Chuck Berry thing, traveled around the world and used the backup band in every city I went to, in South America and in Europe, actually. And the one thing we all knew was the songs, right? Like, that's something we could learn at home. We got together, we were excited. And even if we didn't speak English together, maybe one guy in the band, and then he'd talk, you know, in Turkish to the rest of the band or something, right? Or in Spanish, right, to everybody else.
Yeah.
And my guitar player, Andy, in Italy, does that, right? He hires a lot of Italian guys to work with us, and I'll talk to Andy, and then Andy will communicate to the band guys, because they speak Italian, and, you know. But the one thing we know is the songs, you know, and musically, you know, you can tell when you look across the room if everybody's jamming and rocking out, or if they're going, oh my God, you know. Like, again, as a musician, read the room, man, you know.
Yeah.
Who's the band leader? Who's the boss? Who's in charge here? Look to that person to get your cues from, you know. It's like, you know, that's kind of the person you're probably, you know, in high school and band, it was always the band conductor. Like, he's the boss, you know, we'll pay attention to him. So every setting has a leader or kind of a, you know, a boss to it. So just pay attention to them, you know, and you know, do it their way, or follow along. You know, when I played with Ronnie Montrose, you know, my first day on the job was the gig, and it was a sound check. We ran through a couple things real quick, and he gave me one instruction. He goes, play the song exactly as it is on the album, but when it comes to the solo, I'll see you later. I'm going to take off and go off in my world. He goes, just you, and in this case, Jimmy DeGrasso was on drums. Because you guys hold it down, do what you want. You'll hear, I'll start to indicate when I'm coming back into the song. I'll start sort of hinting the melodies, and then we'll drop back in, and you'll know when I'm coming back, you know. And so that was how we did that gig, you know. So every setting has its own sort of set of rules, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and you've played with a lot of different people too, like over the the last what 20 years, 30 years. You had was it KK
Yeah,
Downing, Jeff
yeah.
Scott Soto, who has Tim Reaper Owens from Priest. So again,
Yeah.
like putting in those different conversations into those different bands and different styles as well.
You know, and writing with Ministry, man, that was awesome, man. Writing with Al, I'm
Oh
such
yeah,
a fan of his. We've become good friends, and it was just fun to. It's like, God, how does he make these records? You know, now I know. You know, sat in there with Billy Morrison, who plays guitar with Billy Idol. He was there, and Billy's a great guitar player. He and I had become friends a few years earlier, so we knew each other, and he kind of made it very comfortable for me. He'd already been writing some stuff with Al on that on the latest Ministry record, so I kind of looked to him a bit as kind of the musical director. Al just sat in the corner, had his glass of wine. He just sat there and kind of not. You could tell when Al was digging it just by his body language. He was like,
yeah,
yeah, cool, man. He liked it. He had a Pro Tool guy there recording everything, putting some drum grooves up. So we knew, you know, back up, back up, back up, back, you know, these very cool Ministry kind of grooves. And they captured everything. They just let the Pro Tools run. They got everything, you know. One point I'm in there doing bass solos, you know, and then, you know, a year later, the record comes out and Al does his thing with it. He takes it, he puts it through that brain of his, and out comes a Ministry song, you know? And so you just kind of do your part, and then you turn it over to him, and he does what he does with it. And so every setting's different, man.
yeah,
Everyone is a different process.
yeah, that's right.
Hey, I got to jump on another interview
Yeah, I was
here.
just going to say, I just realised the time. Sorry about that.
Yeah, as fun as this conversation is, unfortunately, I got to jump on another one.
Oh, that's all right,
So,
no problem. Well, yeah, I'll see you down in Melbourne anyway in a few weeks' time, a couple of weeks.
yep, sounds good, man. Thank you for your support.
No
Appreciate
worries.
it.
Thank you. I'll see you then.
Okay,
Bye bye.
see you, Adam. Bye.